Hey guys, so on today's video, we're going to do a project that I have been dying to do what feels like forever. It's a bedroom refresh, and this project didn't use a lot of tools. It used some, but not a lot. It was mainly just paint, new hardware, and a few new accessories. So instead of spending a lot of time talking about it, let's just get to it.
So first up, we're going to start by removing all the old drawer pulls and hardware from the dressers and the nightstands. The hole pattern for the new hardware that we've chosen doesn't match up, so I drill out the existing holes slightly larger to 1/4 inch, and then fill those back in with 1/4 inch dowels and glue. After these dry, we'll simply cut flush, sand, and be ready for new hardware.
We're going to be repainting our existing furniture. In most cases, we'd probably spray these, but because we normally spray outside and we're coming into winter, the weather is becoming a bit unpredictable. So we've chosen to leave these in the room and brush them with chalk paint. So we throw down some canvas underneath the pieces and begin painting. Now, if you're wanting a super smooth finish, chalk paint might not be your best bet. So if you're doing this without a sprayer and you want to minimize brush strokes, then a cabinet enamel rolled and brushed would probably be a better option. The one thing I love about chalk paint is that there's almost no prep work required. It adheres to almost anything and is super forgiving.
So the top of one of our nightstands was a little worse for wear. The paint had started peeling and bubbling up from years and years of somebody not using a coaster. I won't mention any names, but since I only have one wife, you can probably guess whose nightstand this is. Anyway, I hit this with an 80 grit sandpaper, then 120, and then 220, and it's as smooth as glass. Tossed some mineral spirits on it to get a good look at the final product, and now it's ready for paint. And this time, for the sake of our marriage, there better be coasters involved.
The way you seal chalk paint is with furniture wax. Now, furniture wax isn't designed for everything. It wouldn't be good for a dining room table, but for something like this, it's going to work just fine. We used Minwax's soft finish wax and honestly weren't crazy about the results. It looked splotchy and just didn't set right with us. So a few days afterwards, we went back with Minwax's regular furniture wax and it seems to suit us better. It could also be that maybe we just didn't apply the soft wax correctly, or that we were just more familiar with the regular furniture wax. Who knows?
Okay, so Jessica's got the bedroom painted. She did that this week while I was at work, worked on that. Basically got the ceilings painted, the walls painted, trim, filled in all the nail holes, all of that stuff that I'm glad I didn't have to do. So we've got that done, and while she was painting the ceiling, she went ahead and pulled down the old ceiling fan. We're gonna put up a new ceiling fan now. It's a Hunter. When you get ready to put in a ceiling fan, just get yourself a table of some sort, and with that table, just lay everything out on it, and that's gonna make life a lot easier because you're gonna be able to just find and see all of those different parts. And honestly, this really goes when you're building or putting together anything. Anytime you can just lay everything out in an easy to see fashion, it makes it a lot better. And if you can get it up off the ground, that's even better. When it comes to electrical, be sure and turn off the power source, and always make sure and hire a professional if you don't feel comfortable with it. One of the things that I appreciate about Hunter ceiling fans is that they always make the installation fairly simple. Sometimes cheaper ceiling fans are a pain to install, but Hunter always has these brackets that hold the fan in place while you install them, allowing you to focus on the wiring and the rest of the install rather than struggling with a fan. Our setup has 2 wall switches, one that controls the fan and one that controls the light, so we wired according to the instructions for that particular case. Hunter does have directions for a single switch application as well. Next, go ahead and assemble the fan blades. These are super easy to get upside down, so pay close attention when you install them, or else you're going to get to put them together twice. I will also say it's way easier to do this if you move the bed out of the way. And if you have an electric screwdriver, that really helps as well. We caught this one from Milwaukee on sale for like 70 bucks, and it's great because it has a chuck like an impact, but it has a clutch like a drill, so you can dial this down to where you don't really have to worry about stripping anything out. The ceiling fan is a little wobbly, which is odd because we've never really had this issue with any of our other Hunter fans before, but they provide this clip, and it's like a weighted clip, and you clip this onto the blade like that, and then turn it on and set it, turn it on high, let it run, see how the wobble is. If it's the same, worse, better, and then you move it around to different blades until it gets better. And then they also provide these sticky back weights that you put on the top of the fan blade once you figure out which one makes it better. So in our case, so far, it actually looks like it's going to take 3, but the third one it looks like it's going to really just dial it in perfect. It's going to have almost no shake to it. One of the things on this makeover that we're super excited about is installing a board and batten accent wall behind the bed. We chose to use 1/4 inch MDF for this, and we'll explain why later, but first we just split the sheets directly in half, and this made it way easier to handle. You could also do this with a track saw if you had one as well. After that, we basically just rip it up into 2-inch strips on the table saw, and then we're ready to install. We located the studs on the wall and marked everything, and then made a spacer to help us achieve a perfect spacing, since miraculously our studs were all pretty accurate. We didn't exactly know the best way to attach these, but for grins we tried our cordless pin nailer from Milwaukee, and it worked like a champ. One issue we did run into was at the end that the spacing changed on the last two, so rather than having a big space between two pieces, we chose to split the difference and make it slightly smaller. It's not perfect, but once it's painted it won't be that noticeable, especially since it's in that corner. After that, Jess paints the strips and runs a bead of caulking between the wall and the strips to make everything look seamless. We've got the crown molding up here, and right here where it comes down to the wall is about 1/4 inch here, and so that's why we chose to go with a 1/4 inch MDF instead of 3/4 inch batten of some sort, which normally you would probably go with, but in this case we wanted this to kind of go up and butt up pretty close to the same as that crown molding, but we just didn't want it to overhang. I didn't really like the way that that was going to look, so we chose to do that, and so far we're pretty happy with how this has turned out.
Now the time I have been waiting for I don't know, a year. We're going to start bringing things in and making it cute. When it came time to choose the bedding, I tossed around 2 different options. The Casa Luna brand has become fairly popular, so I looked into them, but the reviews were mixed. I also had concerns of whether the price matched the quality. In the end, I chose to go with my tried and true, Hearth & Hand from Target, mainly because I knew what to expect. We've used them in the past and have had good results. I then chose to use the Casa Luna Chunky Knit bed blanket as an accent. That way, if it was garbage, I hadn't wasted as much money on the entire bedding.
While Jessica's putting the linens and all of that kind of stuff together and starting to make this room pretty, we still have a couple of other small things to do, which is going to be to install the hardware on the dresser drawers, the nightstand, stuff like that. I've already done most of the dressers earlier while I had a little bit of time, worked on that a little bit last night, but we still have the nightstands to do. We're going to use the Craig Jig cabinet hardware jig for this, and honestly I just picked this up yesterday for this specific purpose. In the past I've always just kind of built my own jigs as I went. Sometimes that's a little bit slower than I would like it to be, but we're going to go ahead and this time we're going to use this jig, and what I've experienced so far with using it is it's not perfect. It's a lot like anything with Craig. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good, and it does have some real benefit and some value. This Craig hardware jig was a real time saver once I got the hang of it. I put a piece of painter's tape in the middle to mark a center line, align the jig on the line, set the correct settings for your hardware, clamp it down, and drill. It's very simple. Then install your hardware and admire your handiwork.
So there you have it, our bedroom refresh. Turned out pretty well, if I might say so myself. I think my favorite part about this room was really that accent wall. It's amazing what adding those battens to an all-white room really does. It adds some texture and just adds a focal point. Adding in the painted furniture and then the new hardware to the furniture, some more accessories and everything, it really makes the room more inviting and really a place that you want to go and relax.